She was fired on the spot, humiliated, and escorted out. But just 3 minutes later, she walked back in as the new manager. How could this happen? This unbelievable twist will leave you stunned. Before we dive in, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. And if you love stories like this, make sure to hit subscribe so you never miss an update. Amelia sat at her desk, her fingers tapping away at the keyboard, unaware of the storm gathering just a few steps away. It was a regular Tuesday, one of those sluggish office days that seemed to stretch endlessly. She'd already handled 2 client calls, wrapped up a project report, and was prepping for the weekly meeting with her boss, Mr. Green. Amelia was no stranger to hard work. She often stayed late, ensuring every detail was perfect. Her results spoke for themselves. Her performance was consistently strong, and clients responded well to her efforts. But something felt off that morning. Mr. Green hadn't stopped by her desk like he usually did. There were no emails from him, no brief morning check-in. She told herself he was probably just busy. Then, at 10 a.m., her phone vibrated. A message from HR. Amelia, please report to Mr. Green's office immediately. Confused, she stared at the screen. HR rarely reached out unless it was something significant. Her mind spun with possibilities. Maybe there was a new project. Or perhaps, finally, she was getting the promotion she'd been hoping for. Taking a breath, she gathered her notebook and walked toward his office. With each step, she imagined new opportunities ahead, completely unaware that her life was about to shift dramatically. When Amelia entered, the atmosphere in Mr. Green's office felt heavy, almost cold. He barely looked up from his computer as she stepped inside. Amelia, have a seat, he said, his tone devoid of warmth. The knot in her stomach tightened. She sat down, smiling politely to mask the sudden unease creeping over her. After a pause, Mr. Green finally looked at her. I've reviewed your performance and we've decided to let you go, he stated flatly. Amelia's heart sank. The words hit her like a punch she never saw coming. I don't understand, she stammered. My work has been good, hasn't it? She searched his face for some clue, something that would explain the sudden turn, but Mr. Green's expression remained blank. It's not working out, he replied bluntly. Your termination is effective immediately. Her mind raced. How could this be happening? She'd received nothing but positive feedback. Clients trusted her. Deadlines were consistently met. Trying to stay composed, Amelia took a steady breath. Is there anything I can do? Could I have a few more weeks to prove? No, Amelia. This is final. He slid a severance package across the desk toward her. Please pack your things and leave the premises. His words cut deeper than she expected. This wasn't just professional, it felt personal. Without another word, she nodded stiffly, standing as gracefully as she could manage. Her head buzzed with disbelief. As she exited his office, Amelia's eyes burned, but she refused to let tears fall. Instead, a strange calm settled over her. Coworkers cast brief, uncertain glances as she returned to her desk. Some whispered quietly, others avoided her gaze altogether. The office, once familiar, now felt suffocating. Her hands trembled as she began packing. Her laptop, a few trinkets, and some forgotten coffee cups. She felt like she was moving through a surreal fog, detached from reality. But beneath the shock, something stronger stirred. This wasn't over. She could feel it. As Amelia walked out the building doors, the fresh air stung her face, but it brought no comfort. The rejection still lingered heavily in her chest. Amelia kept walking, her steps slow and heavy. She didn't know where she was headed, but she couldn't stay in the parking lot any longer. Her head buzzed with questions. Why had Mr. Green fired her? Was it because of something personal? Or was there another reason entirely? She reached her car, sliding into the driver's seat and staring blankly ahead. The silence felt deafening. Suddenly, her phone buzzed, pulling her out of her daze. She rummaged through her bag and pulled it out. An email from HR. Amelia, please return to the office immediately. Her eyes widened as she read the message twice, convinced she must have misunderstood. Why would they ask her to return? She had just been fired. Staring at the screen, Amelia felt a strange mix of confusion and suspicion. Was this some kind of mistake? Or worse, a cruel joke? A part of her wanted to ignore the email, but deep down, something told her she needed to go back. With trembling hands, she started the engine and pulled into the lot again. The entire drive back felt surreal. Her heart pounded as she stepped through the office doors once more. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, brighter than she remembered. The faint hum of the office felt distant, like she didn't quite belong there anymore. She moved quickly down the hallway, the weight of her steps echoing louder than usual. Her thoughts swirled. Why did they want me back? What could HR possibly say after firing me? This time, she wasn't directed to Mr. Green's office. Instead, she was sent straight to HR. She knocked gently on the glass door. Sitting behind her desk was the HR manager, Evelyn Marks. Evelyn glanced up, her face calm and unreadable. "Amelia, thank you for coming back so quickly," Evelyn said, her tone almost unnervingly composed. "Please take a seat." Amelia lowered herself into the chair across from Evelyn, trying to mask her unease. "What's going on?" Amelia asked, her voice carefully steady. "I don't understand. I was just fired." Evelyn nodded, folding her hands on the desk. "Yes, I understand how confusing this must be, but we've received new instructions from the board." She paused for a moment, as if gauging Amelia's reaction. "Effective immediately, you are being promoted to department manager." Amelia froze. Her breath hitched as she processed the words. "What?" She blinked rapidly, shaking her head. "You're kidding, right? Mr. Green he just fired me. How could this be happening?" Evelyn leaned forward slightly, her expression unwavering. "I know this feels sudden, Amelia, but the truth is, the board has been conducting an internal review. There were serious concerns about Mr. Green's leadership. After careful consideration, they decided to part ways with him. Effective immediately, he is no longer with the company. The board has chosen you to replace him." The air felt thick as Amelia gripped the arms of the chair to steady herself. "Why me?" Amelia finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've been here a long time, but I wasn't expecting this. Why not someone else?" Evelyn gave a small, knowing smile, though something about her gaze felt calculated. "You've shown leadership, initiative, and consistency. Your results speak for themselves, Amelia. The board believes you are the right fit for this role. As for Mr. Green," Evelyn's smile faded slightly. "There were issues. The decision was made." Amelia sat back, her mind reeling. Fired just moments ago, and now promoted to the very role she had once dreamed of. The irony was overwhelming. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "You're serious," Amelia finally said, her voice cracking. Evelyn nodded. "Completely. This is final. You are now fully responsible for managing the department. Mr. Green is no longer your superior. As of this afternoon, you'll lead the team." Amelia felt the blood rush to her head. Despite the shock, a strange shift began within her. For the first time, she felt something other than humiliation. This was her chance. No one had expected this, certainly not Mr. Green. Not her coworkers, and not the team in HR. For the first time in days, Amelia allowed herself to smile. Still clutching the new contract, she stepped out of Evelyn's office. Her head spun, but her heart felt light. Amelia walked down the hallway, but this time, it felt entirely different. Just an hour ago, she had trudged the same path with her head low, crushed by Mr. Green's harsh dismissal. Now she felt something new. A sense of control. A power she never anticipated. But as she approached the department, she braced herself. This wasn't going to be easy. Her coworkers, the same people she had shared coffee breaks and late nights with, had no clue what had just unfolded. They were about to find out that the woman they watched pack up her desk was now returning as their boss. Pushing open the door to the department, Amelia stepped inside. Her old desk stood in the far corner, but her eyes shifted to the manager's desk at the front. Her desk now. The room buzzed with quiet activity, keyboards clicking as team members focused on their screens. A few heads lifted as she entered. Whispers spread quickly. They all recognized her, but no one understood why she was back. "Amelia?" Sophie, a colleague from the marketing team, looked up with a puzzled expression. "I thought you left?" Amelia drew in a slow breath, steadying herself against the weight of the moment. "Actually," Amelia replied, her voice calm but firm, "I've just been promoted to department manager." The words felt surreal coming out of her mouth, but she said them without hesitation. This was her reality now, and she intended to own it. The room fell silent. Sophie's brows furrowed. "Wait, what? But Mr. Green just fired you?" Her voice trailed off as she exchanged glances with others around the office. Amelia met their gazes, watching as confusion flickered across each face. Some looked surprised, others skeptical. I know it sounds strange, Amelia continued, making her way to the manager's desk, but things move quickly around here. Mr. Green is no longer with the company. The board made some decisions, and starting today, I'll be leading this department. An uneasy pause followed. People exchanged looks, clearly unsure how to respond. Some shifted uncomfortably in their chairs, while others attempted polite but strained smiles. Amelia understood their hesitation. Only hours ago, she was just one of them. How could she suddenly be their boss? But there was one thing she was sure of. She was ready. Amelia wasn't just the employee who had been humiliated and let go. She was now the person shaping the department's future. Whether they trusted her or not, she was the one holding the reins. Her fingertips grazed the smooth surface of the manager's desk as she took her seat. The leather chair felt unfamiliar, but she sank into it confidently. "All right," Amelia said, breaking the silence. She looked up and met the eyes of the team, one by one. "Let's get to work. I know we have a lot to catch up on, and I'm ready to do what it takes to make sure this department succeeds. Let's start fresh." For the first time, Amelia truly felt the weight of her new title, department manager. As the team hesitated, Amelia could feel their uncertainty lingering like static in the air. She wasn't surprised. They weren't sure how to treat her. Was she still just Amelia from 2 cubicles down, or was she someone entirely new? But it wasn't just them adjusting. Amelia felt it too. The entire office had been thrown into unfamiliar territory. After a long moment, she finally addressed the elephant in the room. "I know this is unexpected," Amelia said, her voice steady but gentle. "And I know many of you are wondering how this all happened. Trust me, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it as well. But what I do know is this. We have a job to do, and I'm here to make sure we get it done." The tension softened slightly, but Amelia could still sense the lingering doubts. "We're not going backward," she added, leaning forward slightly. "We're moving forward, and I need all of you on board with me." A heavy pause stretched across the room. Finally, Sophie shifted in her seat, nodding faintly. Others followed, one by one. It wasn't trust. Not yet. But it was a start. Sophie had been the first to react, but it was Mia who finally broke the silence. "But Amelia, how can we trust you now?" Mia's voice trembled slightly. "One minute you're packing up your things, and the next minute you're in charge. It's hard to process. It doesn't feel right." Amelia nodded, fully understanding Mia's hesitation. This wasn't a normal situation, and she didn't expect everyone to fall in line without question. "I get it, Mia. This feels strange to me too," Amelia admitted. "But I don't expect trust right away. I plan to earn it, the same way I've earned my place here from the beginning. I'm just asking for the same respect I've always given to each of you." The room stayed quiet, but Amelia could feel the air shift. She wasn't demanding trust. She wasn't pushing for blind loyalty. She was simply laying the groundwork, offering her team the time and space to adjust. "But we need to focus on what happens next," Amelia continued, gently steering the conversation toward business. "We have deadlines to hit, clients to serve, and projects to complete. I'm not here to overhaul everything overnight. I want us to work as a team. If there's anything we need to address, now is the time." At the back of the room, Tom, one of the quieter members, finally spoke up. "So, what now?" he asked, rubbing his neck. "What kind of changes are we looking at? Things have been pretty chaotic with Mr. Green's leadership. Should we expect more of that, or is this going to be different?" Amelia took a deep breath. Tom was right. The department had suffered under Mr. Green's erratic management. People felt overlooked, and there was a noticeable lack of structure. But Amelia wasn't here to dwell on the past. She was here to move forward. "Look," Amelia said, standing a little taller, "I'm not going to pretend things have been running smoothly. I know many of you felt ignored or dismissed, but that's going to change. I'm not here to point fingers or stir things up. I'm asking for your commitment, nothing more. If we pull together, I know we'll succeed." She paused, letting her words settle in. The silence that followed felt heavier than before, but Amelia could sense something shift. It wasn't outright acceptance, but maybe it was the start of something. "We need to talk about priorities for the next few weeks," Amelia said, feeling a surge of confidence return. "There are important projects on the table, and I need everyone to be at their best. Let's communicate better, support one another, and leave behind the old habits. If there's an issue, we bring it to the surface. No more behind-the-scenes games. A faint murmur rippled through the room. It wasn't loud, but Amelia heard traces of agreement. She reminded herself, this wasn't about transforming the department overnight. She had gone from being fired to running the show in a matter of minutes. It was going to take time for everyone, including herself, to adjust. Still, as Amelia scanned the room, she knew this was her moment. She had control now, and she wouldn't waste it. The rest of the day blurred by in meetings, emails, and a dozen small decisions that didn't seem particularly groundbreaking. But to Amelia, every single one felt like a step forward. By the afternoon, she faced her first real challenge, a tense conversation with one of the senior team members. Mia, who had just questioned Amelia's promotion earlier, was among the more vocal employees. But it was Hannah who had been closest to Mr. Green. Amelia knew Hannah wouldn't take the shift in leadership lightly. During the earlier meeting, Hannah had kept quiet, but Amelia had noticed her occasional glances, the stiffness in her posture. Later that day, as the office emptied for lunch, Hannah approached Amelia by the printer. "I don't know what's happening here," Hannah said quietly, folding her arms, "but I'm just going to say it. Mr. Green was here for years, and now suddenly you're sitting in his chair? I don't know if I can trust that." Amelia met Hannah's eyes calmly, anticipating the resistance. "I understand how you feel, Hannah," Amelia said, her voice steady but soft. "This is a lot to process. I'm not expecting blind trust from anyone. I get that Mr. Green led this team for a long time, but things are different now, and I need you to understand that I'm here to stay." Hannah didn't respond right away, but her gaze softened, if only slightly. "I'm not asking you to forget what happened," Amelia continued. "If you have concerns, I'm here to listen, but I expect us to work together, just like before." For a moment, Amelia thought Hannah might turn and walk away without another word. But after a pause, Hannah gave a short nod. "We'll see," she muttered. "I'll do my job, but I'll be watching." "That's fair," Amelia replied with a small smile. As Hannah walked away, Amelia exhaled, realizing she'd been holding her breath. It wasn't trust, not yet, but it was a start. Hannah was quiet for a moment, clearly processing what Amelia had said. Finally, she gave a small nod. Amelia could tell she wasn't completely convinced yet, but that was okay. Trust wouldn't come overnight, and Amelia knew she had to be patient. The rest of the day passed in a blur of conversations. Some were straightforward, while others required more finesse. Amelia faced each one with as much grace as she could manage, feeling the weight of curious eyes on her as she made decisions and led meetings. She understood their skepticism. The sudden shift in leadership was hard for everyone to process. But Amelia had a plan, and she was determined to stick to it. By the time the day ended, Amelia sat at her new desk, exhausted. Her mind buzzed, still sifting through the whirlwind of emotions and the mountain of tasks ahead. As she reviewed her final emails and updated her calendar, a flicker of resolve settled within her. This was her moment, and she wasn't going to waste it. A second chance like this didn't come often. Even if she wasn't sure what the following day would bring, Amelia knew one thing for certain. She was going to make it count. Gathering her things, she flicked off the office light and stood for a moment, gazing down the empty hallway. Tomorrow would mark a fresh start. She wasn't just the employee who had been fired. She was the leader now. Whatever happened next, she was ready. The next morning, Amelia walked into the office with determination. Sleep had eluded her the night before. Her mind spun, replaying everything that had happened. The weight of her new role pressed heavily on her shoulders. But that pressure only fueled her drive to succeed. Her first task was a strategy meeting with the team. With multiple ongoing projects, Amelia needed to get a clear picture of where things stood. She didn't have time to waste. As she entered the conference room, she sensed a shift in the atmosphere. The team was already seated, but the dynamic felt different. Some employees seemed more at ease, while others remained tense, still adjusting to the sudden changes. "Good morning, everyone," Amelia greeted them. Her voice was steady and firm. She knew one thing: if she didn't lead with confidence, she would lose them. "I know things have been a little chaotic recently, but today marks a new chapter. Let's get back on track. I want to hear where we stand with each of our projects." The room was quieter than usual, but all eyes were on her. Amelia went around the table asking for updates. One by one, her colleagues shared their progress. Some spoke confidently, while others were more hesitant. Then Sophie, who had been the most skeptical yesterday, spoke up. "We're making progress on the marketing project," Sophie began, "but we're running into delays with the Patterson account. We need extra help from design if we want to stay on schedule." Amelia nodded, making a note on her tablet. "Got it. Let's prioritize that." "Sophie, put together a list of the support you need from design. I'll make sure they allocate resources by the end of the day." It wasn't a monumental decision, but it was the kind of action that reassured the team she was paying attention to the small things. She could feel it in the room. They needed to see her as someone proactive, not just someone reacting to the chaos left behind. The rest of the meeting went smoothly. Amelia laid out a clear plan for the next few weeks, ensuring everyone understood their priorities. By the end, the team felt more focused. Amelia felt a small sense of accomplishment. It was just a single step, but it was exactly what the department needed. As the meeting wrapped up, Amelia gathered her notes and began to leave when Hannah approached her. "Amelia," Hannah said, her voice lower than usual. Amelia turned to face her, bracing for what was coming. I want to apologize," Hannah said softly. "I was out of line yesterday. I didn't think you could handle this, but I can see now that you've got a plan, and you're handling things. I'm sorry for doubting you." Amelia felt the tension in her chest slowly ease. Hannah wasn't the type to apologize easily, and hearing those words meant more than Amelia expected. "Thank you, Hannah," Amelia said sincerely, offering a small but warm smile. "I know this transition hasn't been easy, and I don't expect trust overnight, but I'm here to work with you. I'll do everything I can to make sure we succeed as a team." Hannah nodded, her posture visibly loosening. "We're all in this together, right?" Hannah said, her tone more collaborative. "Exactly," Amelia replied, feeling the shift in their dynamic. "We're a team, and we need to pull in the same direction if we're going to get things done." As Hannah walked away, Amelia took a deep breath. That was one battle won. Slowly but surely, the team was coming around. Amelia could feel it. The tide was beginning to turn. There was still work ahead, but the day had left her with something valuable: momentum. The rest of her afternoon was filled with meetings, progress updates, and decisions, some small, some more pressing. Each step forward, no matter how minor, solidified Amelia's confidence. By the end of the day, she leaned back in her chair, letting out a slow breath. The exhaustion was there, but so was a flicker of pride. This wasn't just about handling tasks or delegating work. She was reshaping the department, earning trust, and proving, little by little, that she belonged in this role. Tomorrow, she'd push further. One step at a time, she was going to make sure this department didn't just recover. It would thrive. The following days blurred together, a fast-moving mix of challenges and small victories. Amelia didn't have the luxury of easing into her position. The department was still adjusting, and the aftermath of Mr. Green's departure rippled across every corner of the office. Despite her best efforts, tensions lingered. Hannah was supportive now, but Amelia could see it. A few of the senior members still watched her carefully, as if waiting for her to stumble. They weren't convinced. They needed proof that her leadership wasn't temporary luck. The shadow of Mr. Green's management style still loomed over the team. His lack of communication, unfinished projects, and broken promises left gaps Amelia couldn't ignore. She couldn't brush it aside. It needed to be addressed. So that afternoon, Amelia called for a full department meeting. As the team filed into the conference room, Amelia noticed the cautious glances exchanged around the table. Curiosity lingered, but so did skepticism. Amelia stood at the head of the table, calm but firm. "All right, let's begin," she said, letting her gaze meet theirs. "I know things haven't been easy in this department. Some of you feel overlooked. Others feel like communication has been lacking. I get it, and I'm not here to pretend everything is fine." A ripple of silence filled the room as Amelia's words sank in. Some employees shifted in their seats, exchanging nervous glances. Confronting problems so directly wasn't something they were used to. But Amelia wasn't going to let that deter her. This department won't move forward if we keep sweeping issues under the rug, she continued. We need to address what's not working. Together. Amelia paused, scanning the room. No one spoke, but no one looked away either. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We've got problems, she admitted, crossing her arms. But I'm here to fix them. I can't do that alone. I need your help. We need better communication, better collaboration, and accountability across the board. We can't afford to work in silos. If something's wrong, we face it, even if the conversation feels uncomfortable. She could feel the weight of her words settling in. For a moment, no one responded. The tension was thick. But Amelia recognized that this was exactly what they needed, a hard reset. Finally, Sophie broke the silence. You're right, Sophie said, her voice hesitant but sincere. We've been running in circles for a while now. If we don't change things, we'll stay stuck. I think we're ready for something different. Amelia gave a small nod, appreciation evident in her eyes. Thank you, Sophie, Amelia replied. That's exactly the kind of honesty I need. I want you all to know, if something isn't working, my door is open. We'll figure it out together. There was a shift in the room after that. Subtle, but real. It wasn't full trust, not yet, but it was a start. As the meeting wrapped up, Amelia felt a quiet sense of relief. They hadn't solved everything, but at least they'd started the conversation. That, she knew, was the first real step forward. As the team filed out of the room, Amelia sat back in her chair, exhaling deeply. She knew the path ahead wasn't going to be smooth. There was no illusion that all their problems would vanish overnight. But one thing was clear. She was ready to face whatever came next. One step at a time, Amelia was determined to turn the department around. The following week marked Amelia's first major move toward reshaping the department. It wasn't a grand overhaul, nor a quick fix. What she focused on was something the department had lacked for far too long: structure and communication. She introduced weekly check-ins where the entire team had a chance to voice concerns, share progress, and align their goals. To keep things organized, Amelia rolled out a new project management system to track tasks and deadlines. It was simple but essential. Without these foundational pieces, nothing would truly change. At first, the shift felt like a small victory. The team was hesitant but attended the meetings. They participated, though some did so begrudgingly. What Amelia hadn't anticipated was the pushback from certain senior members, individuals who had been close to Mr. Green. For them, the chaos of the past was familiar and comfortable. Amelia's efforts to create order felt unnecessary and disruptive. One afternoon, Mia, one of the longest-standing team members, knocked on Amelia's office door. Mia had been quiet during the check-ins, often contributing little. But today, there was something different in her expression, a readiness to speak her mind. Amelia, Mia began, her tone guarded but direct. Look, I get that you're trying to change things, but honestly, this feels like a lot of extra work for nothing. We've been doing fine without all these meetings and tools. I don't see the point. Amelia leaned back slightly, taking a moment to gather her thoughts. She had expected this conversation sooner or later. Resistance from seasoned employees like Mia wasn't surprising. Change was never easy, especially for those who had grown accustomed to the old way of doing things. I hear you, Mia, Amelia replied evenly. I understand where you're coming from. But the truth is, the old way wasn't working. We've missed deadlines, projects have slipped through the cracks, and no one seems to be on the same page. Mia shifted uncomfortably, but didn't interrupt. This isn't about creating extra work, Amelia continued, keeping her voice calm but firm. It's about accountability. When things go wrong, we need to know why, and more importantly, how to fix it. Without structure, we'll keep running into the same problems we've had for years. Mia's defensive posture softened slightly. I'm not saying you're wrong, Mia muttered, though her skepticism lingered. It just feels like we're being micromanaged. Some of us have been doing this for a long time without these extra steps. Amelia shook her head gently. I'm not here to micromanage anyone. I trust this team. But trust alone doesn't fix broken systems. This is about setting us up for success, not making your job harder. She paused, studying Mia's expression carefully. There was a flicker of understanding in her eyes, faint but present. I know this is a shift, Amelia added, softening her tone. But I promise it'll pay off. If we stay disorganized, we'll keep spinning our wheels. I'm asking you to give it a shot. If it doesn't work, we'll adjust, but we need to try first." Mia stood silently for a moment, clearly weighing Amelia's words. Finally, she gave a reluctant nod. "I'll give it a shot," Mia said, though the hesitation was still evident. "But I'm not convinced just yet." "That's all I'm asking," Amelia replied with a small smile. "Let's see how it goes. If something isn't working, we'll fix it together." As Mia left her office, Amelia let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. It wasn't a breakthrough, but it was progress. Later that evening, Amelia sat at her desk, reviewing emails and sketching out ideas for the next meeting. She paused for a moment, reflecting on how much had shifted in such a short time. The tension was still there, lingering beneath the surface. But it wasn't as heavy as before. People were starting to open up, slowly trusting her leadership. Even if it was subtle, it was enough. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, more broken systems to repair, more relationships to rebuild. But Amelia felt ready. Every day was a new opportunity to prove herself, not just to her team, but to herself. They could do better, they could grow, and together, they could achieve something great. A few days later, Amelia sat across from Evelyn, the HR manager, reviewing the department's performance reports. While the team was still adjusting to the new systems, Amelia could already see tangible progress. Projects were being completed on time, communication had improved, and most importantly, morale was shifting. People were starting to take ownership of their work, exactly the result Amelia had hoped for. Evelyn flipped through the reports, raising an eyebrow. "I have to say, Amelia, I'm impressed. The team's output has increased significantly, and it looks like they're adapting well to the changes you've implemented. Honestly, I didn't expect to see this kind of turnaround so quickly." Amelia nodded, her mind still catching up to the week's progress. It hadn't been easy, but the results spoke for themselves. "Thank you, Evelyn. I can't take all the credit," Amelia replied with a small smile. "The team has really stepped up. We're not perfect yet, but we're moving in the right direction." Evelyn smiled, leaning back slightly. "You know, when the board first suggested you for this position, there were doubts. People weren't sure if you had the experience or the leadership skills to take over this department, especially after everything with Mr. Green." Amelia felt her heart skip for a moment. She hadn't realized just how much doubt had surrounded her promotion. "But," Evelyn continued, "you've proven them wrong. You've handled everything with confidence and grace." Amelia shifted in her seat, slightly uncomfortable with the praise. She hadn't dwelled on what others thought. For her, this had never been about proving people wrong. It was about doing the right thing for the team. Still, hearing Evelyn's words felt like a quiet validation of everything Amelia had poured into the role. "I'm just doing my best," Amelia replied, her tone modest. "It's been a learning curve, but I'm committed to making this work. The potential in this department is huge, and I want everyone to reach it." Evelyn nodded approvingly. "Well, whatever you're doing, it's working. I've heard positive feedback from the team too. They're more engaged, more motivated. The way you've kept things clear and transparent is making a difference. I think the department's future is looking bright under your leadership." Amelia appreciated the sentiment, but knew better than to celebrate prematurely. She had seen how quickly things could unravel. A week of progress could be undone by one bad day or a series of missteps. "It's still the beginning," Amelia said thoughtfully. "There's a lot of work left to do. I want to make sure we keep this momentum going." Evelyn nodded in agreement. "Of course, but you've already laid the foundation. The real test will be maintaining it long term. That's where true leadership shows." Amelia leaned back, Evelyn's words replaying in her head. She understood exactly what Evelyn meant. Nothing in this world, especially in leadership, was ever guaranteed. The team could slip back into old habits if she didn't stay vigilant. As the meeting shifted to practical matters, budgets, resource allocation, and a few personnel concerns, Amelia found her thoughts drifting back to the bigger picture. She wasn't satisfied with short-term improvements. She wanted to make these changes permanent. When the meeting wrapped up and Evelyn left the office, Amelia sat quietly for a moment, letting the weight of responsibilities sink in. The department was on the right track, but the hardest part was yet to come. She had to prove not just that she could lead, but that she could inspire and keep the team engaged, even when things got tough. Setbacks were inevitable. Doubts, both from the team and from within herself, would linger. But Amelia had fought too hard to let this opportunity slip through her fingers. Her phone buzzed, pulling her from her thoughts. A message from Hannah popped up. "Meeting after work? I've got some ideas for the next project I'd like to go over." Amelia smiled. Hannah had been one of the most resistant to change. The fact that she was now reaching out felt like a small but meaningful victory. "Sounds good. Let's do it," Amelia quickly replied. She set her phone down and gazed out the window. There was still a long road ahead, but Amelia felt ready. One day at a time, she would keep building this team. She would push them to be better and prove, not just to others but to herself, that she deserved to lead. The next few weeks unfolded in a whirlwind of meetings, strategy sessions, and countless decisions that tested Amelia in ways she hadn't anticipated. Despite the small victories, the challenges were relentless. Some days felt like everything was clicking into place. On others, it seemed like one misstep could unravel all the progress she had made. But Amelia pressed on. Amelia pressed forward, determined to shape the department into a more cohesive unit. Managing the diverse personalities within the team proved to be one of the toughest parts of her new role. Some employees embraced the changes, pushing themselves to adapt and take initiative. Others hesitated, holding back just enough to test Amelia's patience. She understood. Change, especially sudden change, wasn't easy for anyone. Hannah, for example, had slowly become one of Amelia's strongest allies over the past few weeks. She had started taking on more responsibilities, sharing ideas during meetings, and speaking up with confidence. It wasn't an overnight shift, but it was noticeable. Hannah's growing trust in Amelia's leadership meant a lot. It felt like the first real sign that they were working towards something bigger, something that could benefit everyone. But leadership wasn't without its weight. Over the past few days, Amelia had faced several fires she needed to put out. Project delays, miscommunications between teams, and tense conversations with senior staff who weren't adjusting as quickly. Even Amelia found herself questioning her decisions at times. Still, she knew she couldn't let the doubt show. Her team needed her to project confidence, even when she didn't feel it. One afternoon, Amelia's inbox chimed with a message that made her heart sink. The email was from Evelyn in HR, requesting a one-on-one meeting to discuss team dynamics brought up in a recent feedback survey. Those words, feedback and dynamics, rarely meant anything simple. Amelia wasn't sure if she should be nervous or brace for a difficult conversation. Whatever it was, she knew she had to face it head-on. That evening, Amelia sat across from Evelyn in her office. The HR manager held a clipboard, her expression as serious as Amelia had come to expect in these types of meetings. "I wanted to speak with you about some concerns that have surfaced," Evelyn began, flipping through her notes. "It's normal for there to be some resistance when a new manager takes over, but I think it's important you hear what a few team members have shared." Amelia's heart rate picked up slightly, but she kept her posture calm. "What kind of concerns?" Amelia asked, working hard to keep her tone neutral. Evelyn set her clipboard down. "Mostly around communication," she replied. "While the team feels there's been improvement, some aren't clear on their place in the bigger picture. A few have expressed that they'd like more transparency about overall goals and expectations. Some even mentioned they're unsure whether they're meeting the benchmarks you've set." Amelia's mind raced. She had believed she was being transparent. Weekly check-ins, project management tools, and regular updates felt like more than enough. But apparently, it wasn't. She hadn't realized how much uncertainty still lingered, especially for those struggling to adjust to her leadership style. Evelyn continued, her tone empathetic but firm. "It's not about the tools, Amelia," Evelyn explained. "It's about the clarity of the message. Some team members feel disconnected. They need more guidance from you to understand how their work fits into the larger vision. This isn't a critique of your leadership personally. It's about making sure they feel anchored to the goals you're setting." Amelia took a deep breath, letting Evelyn's words settle in. This wasn't the first time she'd received feedback about communication, but it was the first time the message felt this direct. she needed to make adjustments. Amelia couldn't afford to assume the team was on the same page just because she felt she had explained things. "I didn't realize it was that unclear," Amelia admitted, almost to herself. "I thought the weekly meetings and the new tools were enough to keep everyone aligned." Evelyn nodded with understanding. "I know you're trying, Amelia, and it's paying off in many areas. But sometimes it's not about how much you communicate. It's how clear the communication feels. Your team wants to feel like their work matters, and they need you to show them how it connects to the bigger goals." Amelia exhaled slowly. "Thank you for telling me this, Evelyn," she said, standing up as the conversation came to a close. "I'll make adjustments. I'll ensure the team has a better understanding of where we're headed, and I'll make sure they feel included in that process." Evelyn smiled, standing with her. "I know you're doing your best," Evelyn replied. "You've come a long way in such a short time. Leadership is a process. You'll make mistakes, but what matters is how you handle them. And from what I see, you're learning. That's the most important thing." Amelia gave a small nod, appreciating the words more than she expected. As Evelyn left the office, Amelia remained standing for a moment, absorbing the weight of the conversation. She had believed she was steering the department in the right direction. But now it was clear. There were still blind spots she hadn't accounted for. Tomorrow would be different. She had more work to do, and the next step was making sure everyone on her team felt they were part of the journey. Amelia left the meeting with Evelyn, feeling both reassured and determined. The feedback hadn't been easy to hear, but she recognized how valuable it was. She knew one thing for sure. If she addressed these concerns quickly and effectively, her team's trust in her would deepen. There was still a long road ahead, but Amelia had learned an important lesson. Leadership wasn't just about making decisions. It was about listening, adapting, and evolving alongside the team. As she walked back to her office, a renewed sense of purpose filled her. She had the tools. She had the plan. Now, more than ever, she was ready to take her leadership to the next level. The next few days were a blur of strategy sessions and follow-ups. Amelia stayed focused on addressing the concerns Evelyn had brought to light. The feedback had left its mark, but she was determined not to let it derail her. She had always believed in the power of communication, but now she realized she needed to be even more intentional and direct about it. To start, Amelia decided to be more explicit about the department's goals and how each individual's role contributed to the larger picture. She worked late into the night, preparing a detailed yet concise presentation for the next team-wide meeting. She wasn't going to let uncertainty linger. By the end of the presentation, her team would know exactly what was expected of them and why their work mattered. The next morning, Amelia gathered the team in the conference room. The atmosphere felt different from the tense meetings of previous weeks. The hostility had faded, replaced by something quieter. The skepticism had softened, but Amelia could tell there was still a lingering sense of uncertainty. "All right, everyone," Amelia began, standing confidently at the front of the room. "We've made progress, but I want to make sure we're all aligned moving forward." Her eyes swept across the room, making sure to meet the gaze of each employee. "I've heard your feedback, and I realize I need to do a better job of communicating the bigger picture. You deserve to know not just what we're doing, but why we're doing it, and how each of you plays a part in that." The room shifted. Employees sat up a little straighter, their attention fully on her. "I've put together a roadmap for the next 6 months," Amelia continued as she pulled up the presentation on the screen behind her. "This is where we're headed. And this," she gestured to the slides, "is how each of you fits into getting us there." As she clicked through the slides, Amelia outlined 3 primary objectives: improving client satisfaction, streamlining project workflows, expanding outreach to new clients. "These are the areas we'll focus on. I want each of you to know how your work directly impacts these goals." Amelia paused to gauge the room. For the first time in weeks, she could see understanding and engagement in her team's faces. It felt different. "I know this transition hasn't been easy," Amelia added, "but we're in this together. Every project, every task you complete brings us closer to these goals. And when we succeed, we all succeed." She could feel the energy shift. It wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was shared purpose. They were with her. The concepts on the screen weren't abstract anymore. They were real, and the team could see how their contributions directly connected to the larger vision. After walking through the objectives and timelines, Amelia opened the floor for questions. A few hands went up, including Sophie's and Mia's. Mia, who had been hesitant about the new systems just days before, asked thoughtful questions about the client satisfaction strategy. Amelia answered each question with clarity, making sure to tie her responses back to the bigger picture. The discussion became collaborative, with more employees chiming in. It wasn't perfect, but for the first time since taking over, Amelia felt like the team wasn't just passively following her lead. They were working alongside her. When the meeting concluded, the team lingered, talking amongst themselves and sharing ideas. Amelia stood at the front of the room, observing with quiet pride. It was far from flawless. There were still rough edges to smooth out, but this was progress. And that progress, no matter how small, meant everything. Later that afternoon, as Amelia caught up on emails, a message from Hannah appeared in her inbox. "Can we talk about the new client proposal later? I've got a few ideas I'd like to go over." Amelia smiled. Hannah, once one of the most skeptical voices in the room, was now stepping up and taking initiative. This was the kind of leadership Amelia had been striving for, not just directing the team, but empowering them to lead in their own ways. "Let's meet after lunch," Amelia typed back. "Looking forward to hearing your thoughts." As she closed her inbox, Amelia felt a rare sense of relief. Things were starting to click, and while there was still plenty of work ahead, she knew the foundation she was building would hold. Amelia sat quietly at her desk as the team filtered out of the meeting room, still buzzing from the progress they'd made. For the first time, she felt like she wasn't just managing, she was leading. Her team trusted her now. Most of them, at least, and that was a milestone she wouldn't take lightly. Amelia knew that if she could keep them engaged and focused on the goals they had just outlined, there was nothing they couldn't accomplish together. The road ahead would be demanding, but Amelia felt more prepared than ever. She wasn't just filling someone else's shoes anymore. She was Amelia, the leader shaping the future of this department. And for the first time, she believed she was exactly where she was meant to be. In the weeks that followed, the momentum continued to build. The department began to feel more cohesive, more driven by a shared sense of purpose. There were still bumps along the way. Small instances of resistance, missteps that tested Amelia's patience, but she found herself handling them with a calm she hadn't realized she possessed. The feedback from the team steadily improved. It wasn't perfect, but Amelia could sense their growing confidence in her leadership. Weekly check-ins became a staple, and she noticed a shift. Her team began to speak up more. They weren't just waiting for Amelia to solve problems. They were stepping in, offering ideas and solutions before issues reached her desk. For the first time, ownership and initiative began to flourish. One of Amelia's proudest moments came during the final stages of a major client proposal. A few months ago, a project like this would have resulted in chaos, misaligned work, last-minute scrambles, and disjointed communication. But this time, everything came together seamlessly. Each team member took full responsibility for their part, ensuring the proposal was polished and aligned by the deadline. That afternoon, Amelia sat in the conference room, reviewing the final draft with Hannah and Sophie. As they discussed the details, Hannah glanced up from her notes. "I've got to admit, Amelia," she said, a rare smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "I was skeptical at first. But things really are changing. The work we're doing, the way we're working together, it feels different now. Feels like we're actually moving forward." Amelia's heart swelled at the words. "I'm glad to hear you say that," Amelia replied, meeting Hannah's gaze. "But this is because of all of you. You've stepped up. We're in this together. I'm just here to make sure we stay moving in the right direction." Sophie nodded in agreement. "I've noticed it too. The communication is clearer, and it feels like we're not just guessing anymore. It's easier to do the work when you know where it's headed." Amelia leaned back in her chair, feeling the shift in the room. It wasn't just the work that had changed. The atmosphere had transformed too. The tension that once hovered over every meeting had faded, replaced by collaboration and mutual respect. "We still have work to do," Amelia said, though her tone was light. "But we're on the right track. This proposal is strong, and I think the client's going to see that." As the meeting wrapped up, Amelia felt the familiar satisfaction of a job well done. It wasn't just about the proposal, it was about how far the team had come. They weren't just co-workers anymore, operating in isolation. They were a team. Later that evening, Amelia sat in her office, catching up on emails and planning for the days ahead. As she reviewed the project timeline, a new thought began to form, something she hadn't fully considered before. She'd spent so much time focused on day-to-day improvements, building trust, refining processes and repairing old habits, that she hadn't stopped to think about what came next. Amelia realized she had been so wrapped up in managing the present that she hadn't envisioned the future. The department had made incredible progress, but they were capable of so much more. She wasn't content to let them plateau. Amelia had a vision for growth, not just for herself, but for her entire team. The next morning, Amelia scheduled a meeting with Evelyn from HR. It was time to start talking about long-term goals. She wanted to know what steps they needed to take to keep growing, expanding their capabilities, and taking on bigger, more ambitious projects. Amelia had a gut feeling. The department was standing on the edge of something bigger. She just needed the right guidance to push them forward. When Evelyn walked into her office the following morning, Amelia wasted no time. "I think we're ready for the next step," Amelia said, her voice steady and certain. "The team has come a long way. I believe we're capable of bigger projects, but I want to know what we need to do to get there. I'm thinking about the long-term strategy for this department. We've built a solid foundation, but I don't want us to lose sight of the bigger picture." Evelyn listened carefully, nodding as Amelia spoke. "You're thinking ahead," Evelyn said with approval. "That's exactly what this department needs. The first step is laying out clear, long-term goals. We'll look at resources, areas where we can expand, and even potential hires to support that growth." Amelia felt the excitement building. This was the conversation she needed, the push toward what came next. As the meeting wrapped up, Amelia felt invigorated. She wasn't just maintaining the department anymore, she was leading it toward the future. The next chapter had begun. Amelia sat across from Evelyn, the HR manager, as the afternoon sun filtered into her office. The conversation was flowing easily, but the topic at hand was critical, the future of the department. "I'm glad you're bringing this up," Evelyn said, leaning forward. "You've done a fantastic job stabilizing the team, but I'm curious, where do you see this department going in the next year or two? What's your vision for growth?" Amelia paused, carefully considering her response. "I don't want us to simply react to problems anymore," she said thoughtfully. "I want this department to seek out opportunities, to lead, not just manage projects. I believe we can expand, take on more complex work, and position ourselves as one of the top-performing departments in the company. But that means pushing boundaries." Evelyn smiled, clearly impressed. "I like where your head is at," she replied, "and I think your team is ready for it. The next step will be aligning that vision with long-term strategy, resource planning, hiring, and goal setting." Amelia nodded, already feeling the gears turning in her mind. This was the push she needed, the signal that it was time to think bigger. She had spent months rebuilding the foundation of the department, but now she was ready to expand, elevate, and evolve. The following weeks became a whirlwind of brainstorming sessions, strategic meetings, and decisions that would define the department's path forward. Amelia wasn't just focused on the day-to-day anymore. She was laying the foundation for long-term growth. With Evelyn's help, Amelia began refining their operations, broadening their client base, and gradually shaping the department's identity as a leader within the company. She knew one thing for sure: they needed more people. The current team had made incredible progress, but the workload was beginning to push their limits. If they were going to take on larger, more ambitious projects, they needed fresh talent and new perspectives. Amelia's first step was collaborating with HR to draft a hiring plan. She wasn't just looking for warm bodies to fill desks. She needed people with specific skills: project management, data analysis, and client relations. More importantly, she wanted to find people who aligned with the team's evolving culture. Skill was essential, but mindset mattered just as much. One afternoon, as Amelia was finalizing job descriptions with Evelyn, her phone rang. It was Sophie. "Hey, Amelia, can you talk for a minute?" Sophie's tone was calm, but urgent. "It's about the new client pitch. I think we've hit a snag." Amelia's heart rate picked up slightly. "Okay," Amelia said, putting the papers aside. "Walk me through it. What's going on?" Sophie explained that while the creative team had been making solid progress, the scope of the project had expanded unexpectedly. Deliverables were piling up, and they were at risk of missing the deadline if they didn't get additional help. Amelia leaned back in her chair, feeling the familiar pressure that came with leadership. She had worked so hard to build momentum. Burning out the team wasn't an option. "Thanks for letting me know," Amelia said after a brief pause. "Let me talk to Evelyn. I'll see if we can bring in temporary support or reallocate resources from another team. Don't worry, we'll figure it out." Sophie let out a relieved sigh. "Thank you. I knew you'd have a plan." As Amelia hung up, she immediately dialed Evelyn. In leadership, adaptability was key. Within 30 minutes, Amelia and Evelyn devised a plan to shift resources from another department to assist with the project. It wasn't ideal, but it would keep things moving without overwhelming Sophie's team. Amelia quickly called Sophie back. "We're set," Amelia told her confidently. "You'll have extra hands to help with the heavy lifting. Focus on the creative work. I'll make sure the logistics are handled." Sophie's gratitude was clear in her voice. "Thanks, Amelia. This really helps. We'll make it happen." Later that evening, Amelia sat at her desk reviewing the revised project plan. The situation had been a challenge, but it never escalated into a crisis. That alone was proof of how far the team had come. They weren't crumbling under pressure. They were problem-solving together. Amelia smiled to herself as she sipped her coffee. This was leadership, not perfection, but progress. Amelia leaned against the edge of her desk, rereading the email for the third time. The subject line, "Team Recognition," practically glowed on the screen. The message detailed the department's achievements, surpassing client expectations, improving turnaround times, and landing several new contracts. But what struck Amelia the most wasn't the numbers, it was the final line. "This department is a model for collaboration, resilience, and growth. We're excited to see where it goes next." Amelia let out a long breath, feeling a rare moment of pride settle over her. They had done it. This wasn't just a win for her, it was for the entire team. They had bought into the vision, pushed through challenges, and grown stronger together. It was no longer just Amelia steering the ship. The whole crew had their hands on the wheel. Later that afternoon, Amelia called the team into the conference room. The energy in the room was different than it had been months ago. There was confidence now, a belief that they could tackle anything. As the team settled into their seats, Amelia stood at the front, taking a moment to meet their eyes. "I wanted to bring everyone together because we have some exciting news," she began, a smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "The leadership team just sent out an email recognizing our department's performance over the last few months. We've exceeded our goals, improved project timelines, and secured new business. But this isn't just my achievement, it's yours. Without the hard work each of you has put in, we wouldn't be where we are today." Around the room, Amelia saw surprised glances exchanged, and then pride. Soft murmurs of disbelief rippled through the group. They weren't used to this level of praise, but Amelia could tell it meant something to them. "When I stepped into this role," Amelia continued, "I knew we had potential, but I won't pretend it was easy. There were days we struggled, days we weren't sure how we'd reach the finish line. But look at what we've accomplished. We didn't just meet expectations, we blew past them." A small cheer broke out near the back of the room. Amelia scanned the faces before her, and in that moment, she felt something shift. They weren't just employees, they were partners. They had taken ownership of their roles, and together they had built something remarkable. "I'm proud of you all," Amelia said sincerely, "and I'm even more excited about what's ahead. This is just the beginning. We've set a new standard for what we can do, and I know we're going to keep raising the bar." The room filled with quiet applause. As the team slowly filtered out, Sophie hung back near the door, waiting until most of the room had cleared. "Amelia," she said softly, crossing her arms, "I just wanted to say thank you for everything. You've really changed things around here." Amelia smiled. "It wasn't just me," she replied. "We did this together." Sophie nodded but added, "Yeah, but you made us believe we could." Amelia's heart swelled as she watched Sophie leave the room. She had come into this role expecting resistance, but now she had a team that believed in her and in themselves. Amelia stood at the front of the room, hands resting lightly on the table as she scanned the faces of her team. The applause still echoed faintly in her ears, and for the first time in months she felt a rare sense of calm. "This isn't just my win," Amelia said, her voice steady but full of emotion. "We built this together. I may have steered the ship, but each of you kept it moving forward." Her eyes met Sophie's, then Mia's, and finally Evelyn's, who gave a small, proud nod from the back of the room. "We've come a long way," Amelia continued, "but this is only the beginning. There's more ahead, bigger projects, new challenges, but I know now that we can handle it, together." The room was quiet for a beat before Sophie stood up, her gaze unwavering. "You helped us believe in this team, Amelia," Sophie said, her voice clear and confident. "I don't think we realized how far we could go until you showed us what was possible." A lump formed in Amelia's throat, but she kept her composure. "Thank you, Sophie," she replied softly. "But this is all of us. I wouldn't be standing here if it weren't for the work each of you put in." The room filled with applause again, louder this time. But this wasn't about praise or recognition. It was about the journey they had taken and the trust they had built along the way. As the applause faded, Amelia leaned back slightly, letting the moment sink in. She looked out at the team, watching as they smiled, laughed, and exchanged excited whispers about the future. They weren't just employees anymore. They were a team, a unit that had grown stronger through shared struggles and collective victories. And Amelia? For the first time since the whirlwind day she had been unexpectedly promoted, she knew with certainty. This was exactly where she was meant to be. The meeting wrapped up, but the energy lingered as the team gradually filed out, discussing next steps and potential projects. Amelia stayed behind, standing by the window of the now empty conference room. She could hear distant laughter echoing from the hallway. She smiled to herself. The best was yet to come. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more incredible stories. See you in the next video.